All right, so I've already primed the pad. I'm gonna add a little polish. Generally you do 4 little dots. You know, something like that. I'm gonna pick an area that's, you know, 2 feet by 2 feet. Because we're finishing polishing, I can work a little bit bigger areas. If I were compounding, I'd want to work tighter. You know, again, that depends on the color, depends on the paint, depends on the car. You know, it just sort of depends on what you're doing. I always hold the whatever, the cord on my shoulder so I'm not dragging across the paint. And I want to sort of spread it around so it doesn't fling. Again, I'm on speed 4. And now I'm going to apply about 10 pounds of pressure. And I'm going to move it roughly this speed. Making overlapping motions. And I want to rotate my pad to get these other sort of curved areas so I get the whole thing. So notice how I'm kind of scrubbing the area. And then I'm going to come back. Still applying pressure. Rotate the pad. But notice the pad isn't spinning. See my line not spinning. I want to make sure that the pad is spinning, otherwise I'm not doing any work. You also have to be careful with pressure on like an M3 because the hood's aluminum. You don't want to dent it. So that was pass number 2. So what the washer mod helps is when you're doing this, it doesn't stop as much. It tends to keep it moving. I'm also, I'll tend to scrub up next to the edge, so kind of rotate the pad a little bit. That was pass number 3. And here's pass number 4. Done. So now I'll get my polish removal towel. Always making sure that I'm checking the towel, make sure there's no junk in it that could potentially scratch my paint. Oh, that would have been a good one, a little piece of leaf or something. Some people like to do it in 4s. I like to do it in halves. And then I just kind of work in a back and forth motion, getting the polish off. Perfect finish barely has any dust at all. And then we have a nice, clean looking surface. Again, the payoff just isn't there on a silver car. You know, so it's like, all right, what did I just do? Well, where you would notice the difference is just that pop we'll get from the sun. So we're going to go through and do the, you know, do the entire car this way. There's still some heat from the motor. But that's sort of how we'll do it. So I'll do another quick little pass here, showing you again on a little less complicated area. Actually, I guess this area's got some of its own complications. Because of the curvature here. So, do my 4 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put the cord up on my shoulder. I'm going to spread it around. So I'm actually going to treat this as a separate piece. So I'm going to work this panel right here. So first thing is to spread it around. Now I can do my thing. Notice the speed. Yeah, we're not going like this. We're controlling our speed. And I'm not applying 20 pounds of pressure, I'm applying about 10. That's from Todd Cooperrider. And then a lot of times on these edges, you might want to scrub up next to it. Being careful that there's always going to be less paint here or on the edge than there will be on the flat spot. And this edge isn't as sharp as, say, this edge here, so not as important. But like edges on doors and things like that, you really want to get up in like here's an example where I'll roll up next to the edge so that I get all the way up in there. But I don't want to hold it on top of the edge, and I want to hold the thing on top because then I'm removing a little too much paint. I'm coming up to the edge. Notice how the pad I'm leaning, I'm just sort of scrubbing up next to it, and then I can come back this way. And make sure that I get all the way up to the edge. Now this silver car, it's not as important because it's silver. But like on a black car, you would notice if this area wasn't dialed in as well as the rest of it. So that was pass number 2. There's pass number 3. There's pass number 4. So, I mean, you can't mess it up. I mean, the way you can mess up is if you hit the side, which isn't as easy now because of the way the pad designs are. But, like the older ones would have, the pad would come right up to the edge and you could, nick the side of the paint or hit. That's why we taped off over here so you won't burn it and hit, with the side. The other thing to be careful of is like the door handles. And so that's very different from my traditional way, the way that I used to do it. I was never nearly as intentional about making sure I keep my pad flat. I was never intentional about scooping and getting these areas. I just kind of ran the pad over it at slow speeds, and I got some of the results. But a lot of what I learned at the Esoteric Detailing Academy was, just technique on using the pad. I practiced on a couple of vehicles, getting in there and really making sure that I'm, scooping the pad, I'm scrubbing different areas, just some different techniques in order to really dial in all the edges, the whole structure of the car, and, getting it set up. Another thing with some of the products, polishing, I really become a big fan of, and I've read a lot about Sonax Perfect Finish. And I know some of you guys are going to get bent out of shape about me using this as, on a car that's reasonably, dialed in. But it just finishes so nicely that I just love it. I really don't see any other sort of product that I'll use to finish with, especially on a one-step like this. So we're going to go through. I'll keep the camera running a little bit. But we're going to go through. I'm going to work with Tim, get him set up so that we can sort of knock out the whole car. I'll try to get different angles and things, but that's the basic premise of how you do it. We have the pad primed. The other thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you in a second, is how to blow this out, which isn't rocket science. So this is the residue control part. Make sure I turn it. So we'll come over periodically and blow out the pad. This thing doesn't have enough juice. You want to learn how to do this someday? Yeah. You know, all this time I never understood why anybody cared about the washer mod until I actually started using the polisher properly. Because when you get in these, well, when you turn it on its side, you know, this is designed to stop moving so you don't mess it up, mess up your paint. But I think Rupes is a little bit too, you know, they're a little too conservative. And so what the washer mod does is make sure that it keeps spinning as you kind of get off axis, or if you apply pressure, it helps keep that from bogging down. Oh, another thing, like in an area like this over here, you may not need to make, especially if you're scrubbing, or you're leaning the pad over. Anytime you come off of your edge, let's say I had a scratch right here, and if I came off my edge and I started scrubbing, I'm doing a lot more work than if I'm just holding it flat. And so as I'm coming here and scrubbing this area and rotating my pad, I may not need to, hold the polish there. I may not need to make the full 4 passes. And so you want to sort of follow the contour, and you can come back flat, and then follow the contour and then come back flat. That kind of technique. It's all about trying to keep as much of the pad connected with the paint as possible, unless you were working like a specific scratch. I just finished my side of the front clip. So the front 3 panels are done. And we're going to swap out pads, grab some new towels, start on the roof. we'll use the 3" on the A-pillar and the mirror, and probably use the 3". Actually, I always end up using the 5" on the B-pillars, and then we'll use, you know, the normal 5" on the roof. Making progress. Again, I'm going to swap. I'm going to pull the pad off and put a new one on. Do that to both machines. It never hurt to use more pads, and then I'll prime it. Like another little tip that somebody suggested is use the circle to line it up. I was always using the edge, so that gives you a perfect alignment on your pad. Here's another little trick you can do. So I got the 3" little 12mm orbit, and you know, I'm going to do the A-pillar here. I'm going to do the mirror. But the problem is if I put like 4 dots, it's hard to spread it around. So I'll fling it all over the place. So a couple of little tricks you can do is just take some polish, put it on the paint in a couple of spots, and I can just grab that bead as I'm sort of coming around. And so, you know, I'll start the polisher so the pad is primed. I'll get started and I'll just grab that bead, work it in, get the right speed. Speed 4.5. 4.5 to 5 on this one because it's not as powerful. The orbit isn't as big. So notice I'm working the contour of the A-pillar. I'm rocking back and forth. Because this is a tighter area, I don't need to come back. I'll grab a bead. I don't need to come back and go over this as many times as I would a bigger section. It's 2, maybe 3 passes at the most. Don't do it that way. So you can see why we're taping this off.
Right. We're losing battery.
Yeah. I'll slow this down a little bit on this. Softer trim. This is one of those areas where you need to be careful with tucking it in too tightly, you know, because then I could hit the edge of the pad or the edge of the backing plate. So that's how you grab a bead and kind of keep working an area rather than trying to use some bigger tool. Right. And now if I really wanted to get in here, if this was all scratched up, we've already checked this, but if this was all scratched up, we get the nano out and go in there, get in real tightly. We might do that anyway. And then we just wipe it down like normal. Dialed in trim, dialed in pillars. All right, so we got our normal swirls. They're sort of swirled out. A-pillar. This is our perfect finish. So I'm on my normal speed 4.5 on this version 1. Now I don't know if you can get the camera in there, but see, and I didn't tell you this, but see how the actual edge of the pad is out here.
Right.
But see how you can see the yellow part? That's the sort of the working part of the, because the pad warps.
Yeah.
So that's the area of the pad that you want to line up with the edge of any surface that you're polishing.
Right. Did the other side. I mean, this is so soft that the first pass I made, I scratched it again. I had to repolish it. So I'm gonna use a fresh towel, double check my towel, and I'm gonna use some eraser so that way I have to put less pressure on it, or no pressure. Get the polish off. There's even just light pressure and you're scratching these. So now let's see. Make a little smearing. Let's see all the swirls, all the circular swirls are gone. Now it's black, so it's going to show any little dust particle. It's a huge difference.
And those little ticks you're seeing are just a little lint from the microfiber. But now we're can't tell if that's a residue. Oh, that's residue from the. So we're dialed pretty good.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than what I was doing. I mean, you can get in there, but not quite as good as that. That's for sure.
So of course this is the long neck, long neck hybrid. I have it in random orbit mode. This is one of those areas that you see a lot. So I like to keep it polished.
Yeah.
that thing, huh?
Very.
All right, so we finished. We're what, 3 hours into polishing, something like that. So we did finishing polish. I got the trim done. Everything's done. The whole car is jeweled out, polished out. And so now what we're going to do, what I used to do is I used to wash the car, but that was when I was overworking the compound, using too much compound or too much polish. We used an appropriate amount of polish, made an appropriate amount of passes, so there really isn't as much residue on the car as normal. So what we're going to do is just sort of blow it off to get all the dust off, and then we're going to follow with a really soft towel and Carpro eraser to get all the polish residue off. And then we'll follow with a, we'll start to do our coating. So this is Carpro eraser. You could use Menzerna top inspection. You could use like a 20 or maybe 30% isopropyl alcohol solution. Just something to get the polish residue off of the paint. Gee whiz. Apparently polishing is a difficult word for me to speak. You know, you're getting the first, this is like the culmination of my detailing experience all coming together on this one car for the first time. I haven't done any of mine yet since I went to esoteric and have changed some of my methods. So we won't worry about the windows right this minute because we're about to jack up the windows anyway when we do the when we clean all the whatever the heck it's called, the rubber. Telling you, it doesn't look like we've done much, but we have dialed. We have dialed this thing in. There is not a blemish on this thing. Nope.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, no, I don't. I used to. Yeah, this is how I blew my knee out. Yep. I mean, I blew it out doing Outlaw. Remember when Outlaw was big, and I was doing it in my basement and doing snatches, knees in, and then one day I was washing my car, and that's when I felt that pop, meniscus pop. All right, so we got the car prepped and ready. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do Ammo Reflex foundation coat. So this is Larry's sort of version of what he calls a flexible coating, or this is the first layer. So this is the first layer of protection. He says 6 months to a year that it should last. So what we're going to do, this is going to be our foundation layer. I really like this concept of, I've always been a big proponent of putting multiple coats of wax or multiple coats of sealant in order to get a little more depth and shine. And one of my rubs with traditional coatings is that they tend to, you don't get the same depth and look. It looks sort of more synthetic. So I'm excited to see what the sort of combination of this ammo skin and then ammo cream, which is their regular sort of carnauba wax, which you should put on every month or so, but shoot, I'm happy to put it on every month. It'll be fun. Yeah. We're gonna lay this down, and really the sort of the procedure of this is we're gonna prime the pad. So we'll get all the pads set up. We're gonna make an X. We're gonna put gloves on because I'm sure this stuff is pretty nasty stuff. And we're going to go around, and it's very different than most coatings. Like with C-Quartz, you do a little section and you have to work it in and get it all level. This is very different. It goes on more like a wax, where we're going to sort of basically cover the entire car. By the time we get done with the end of the car, we can probably come back and start wiping the car off. Then we're going to let it sit for 2 or 3 hours while we're doing the windows and the trim and all that, and the wheel and the tires and all that. And then we can top it with skin, and then we'll do another. And then Tim can do another layer of skin and cream, because skin needs another 3 hours. So you'll take it home, and then next time you wash it, I would throw another layer of skin on. And then like maybe later that day, throw a layer of carnauba wax on top of it, and it's going to be super. I have a feeling, based on all the other stuff that I've seen used from Ammo, I didn't believe it. I refuse to believe it, but I'm a believer now. So the thing I didn't realize is that, and I actually talked with Larry the last couple of weeks, talked to him a little bit. About doing some collaborations and things like that, helping them with some garage stuff, because as you guys know, I'm insane with garage design. But his wife's a chemist, and so he used her as a sort of a sounding board in order to, I guess, go to the company that he had manufacture the stuff, and they worked together and crafted this stuff. And so the general idea of this is it's supposed to be more flexible. It's not a glass coating. I'm not exactly sure what it is. But I'm sure, I think he mentions in his video, but it's all made in the USA, and the product is designed to sort of, it's not super hard like a ceramic or a glass coating, just a different material, hence it being applied differently. So I'm going to take you through the process of how to install it, and then we'll sort of come back and wipe it off and sort of tell you what it looks like. It is coming out. Barely. Let's see. Yep, okay. So then I'm going to bring the pad and make sure I get it all in there, and I'm going to apply it in straight lines. And I don't know why I just started right here, but this is where I started. And when it gets grabby is when we need to add a little bit more. I've never been so excited about some sort of protective coating put on the car. Now, we're going to do this on, and this can be used on all the trim, rubber, everything. I'm going to use it on the plastics, like the shadow line trim, except for the B-pillar, where I'm going to do a super hard glass coating. And then the rubber is where we're going to do G-on trim. See, other coatings, if you put it on this way, I'm going to do the wiper blades as well. Other coatings, if you put it on like this, you'd have all kinds of high spots and issues. Just a different product. Now it makes a little more sense to go top to bottom and pick sections rather than the way I just did it. A little easier to keep track of where you're at. And I'm assuming, no, I haven't used this product yet, but I'm assuming that a little goes a long way and you don't want to overload it because then it'll just be harder to remove it. But we'll see here in a minute. So now I'm doing it a little more intelligently, where I'm picking little panels separated by the body lines of the car. You can also layer this as well, so we can put more than one coat on. You just have to let it cure. All right, so there's the hood. So Tim and I will go around, we're gonna do the whole car, and then we'll come back to you and when we're wiping it off. So here's a little tip as I'm sort of learning how to work with this. You know, it's grabby when you're first putting it on the paint. So what we've been doing is, so I'll go over one layer and then I'll come back over that just where it glides a little smoother, just to make sure that I filled in all the gaps. You know what? I changed my mind on the on all the shadow line trim. Let's do this because the C-quartz doesn't really work all that well. So why not try this on it?
Zooming in and out. Dude, stop zoom. Pretty stinking clean right now.
You know what? See, that's not clean enough.
What?
That.
That's clean. Oh, that's my sweat.
You have sweat on the car.
Don't sweat on the car, man.
Sorry,
Jeez.
I got sweaty out here. It's hot.
It's very hot, especially at that end.
Not even hot.
Where you are.
Not even
I was on the ground doing the doors.
Sweaty ride.
I'm sweating.
Remember, you're supposed to be 12 years old for that one that you won. You got it when you were 3. Yeah.
How old do you have to get the red one?
You're supposed to be like, I don't know, I think that one's like 16 or something. They give you a big spot.
Ryan, what kind of microfiber towel should he use to wipe that sweat off? This is your pop quiz.
Here, use your shirt. Come here.
Now,
You got a
he
nice,
uses his tongue to lick it off.
you got a nice soft shirt.
Use your tongue to lick it off.
It's kind of gross.
Use your face.
Make this water. Water. And up here.
Oh, it's just
That's on the splitter, but not on the tips. Almost there, Tim.
Yep.
The home stretch.
Did you do any of this right here?
Yeah. No.
No.
I'm pretty sure I did. I like that ride.
Why isn't he washing his car by himself?
I don't know what to do. I've used sandpaper.
Go get the other doors and then we're done.
There it goes. You already did the doors here?
Yes. You need to cut this off. No, so you don't end up with it dragging down the side of the car.
Oh, if I forget it.
It's a modification number one. Especially the
Matt, you've told me already too many number ones. I've already done them all.
Oh yeah, I do have a lot of number ones. Huh?
It's like I got home
Golden
that
rule
night.
number
That
one.
night you told me about the sidebar because I got home that night and ordered them.
Let's see how many other number ones I have.
Yeah.
You got the tire nibs.
And
Tire
we're
lights
gonna
all
do
good.
that here when this is cured.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna let this sit for another maybe 10 minutes. Took us about 20 minutes to do the whole car, and then we're gonna come back through and wipe it off. It might take a little bit longer to dry because of the humidity.
Some kind of a procedure at the factory for those knobs.
I think I'm the only one who cares about this. Me
No,
and
I mean,
me.
now that, see, I didn't even really think about it, but now that you mention it, I want them off.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's try Emmo's mud.
The tires?
Yeah.
You want like a satin, right?
Yep.
Look to it. Not that shiny.
What I'm gonna do is use this on one car and use Carpet Pearl on the other. And we'll see who
The
wins.
difference. Yeah.
I'm rooting for Ammo.
It's like a gel, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looks fairly thick.
Yeah, it does look thick.